The millionaire is shocked when the pregnant woman he kicks out returns his papers with a secret. Adrian Carter stood tall by the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse office, the sun slicing through the glass and casting long shadows over his sprawling empire laid out beneath him. The glittering ocean stretched endlessly, the waves crashing rhythmically on the shore, almost like a heartbeat. Adrian leaned back in his leather chair, chest tight with pride and iron control. Nothing shook his world. Nothing. Then Clara walked in. She was tense, her brow furrowed, one hand pressed against the growing curve of her stomach. Her eyes burned with fierce determination. Not the kind Adrian was used to. She wasn't just any visitor. She was the voice of a community, crushed under his company's latest project, a dam that would drown their homes, their lives, their future. Her words hit like jet engines roaring loud in his silence. "Mr. Carter, you can't just ignore this. Families were." Adrian's lips curled cold. "I run a business. Sacrifices are necessary. If you expect me to halt progress for a handful of complaints, you're wasting my time." Clara's jaw snapped tight, but she didn't back down. "You have no idea what you're destroying." He waved her off without a blink. Out. Her trembling hands clutched the doorframe for a moment longer. Then she slipped out like a shadow cast aside, leaving a hollow chill in the room. For the first time in years, something trembled beneath his calm. Something raw and unsettled. It crawled beneath his skin, a stubborn ember of doubt. Days passed. His routine was static, relentless, until the unexpected happened. The elevator dinged sharply behind him. He turned. Clara stood there again, her figure sharper, her eyes darker. Now she carried a thick folder, the weight of it matched by the weight in the room. She approached without hesitation. "I wasn't kidding, Adrian." Her voice was low but fierce. "These papers show everything. Bribes, false reports, cover-ups. Your entire scheme." He caught the sheet she handed him, documents leaping with damning evidence. His hands trembled ever so slightly, a crack in his armor. Then she dropped the shock bomb. "I'm carrying your child." The words echoed like a thunderclap. His gaze locked onto her belly, a sudden surge of fear choking the breath in his lungs. The city's roar outside was a distant hum now, his mind a storm of raw confusion and fear. A father to her, to this woman, to a child tangled in his ruthless world. Before he could react, Clara's confident posture shifted. Her eyes darkened even more. "But here's the twist you didn't see coming. I'm not just from the neighborhood. I've got ties to your fiercest rival. They want your downfall, your empire's collapse, and I'm the key." A bitter silence sank between them, like the calm before a hurricane. His fists clenched. This wasn't just corporate warfare anymore. It was personal. Danger close. Betrayal thick in the salty air. Just then, a name, whispered in a half-forgotten conversation, clawed its way back to Adrian's mind. A name from his past. A family secret, long buried beneath years of lies and ambition. The secret that could turn everything upside down. Clara tilted her head ever so slightly, a faint, unsettling smile curling her lips. You think this is your world, Adrian? Think again. The real game is just beginning. His chest tightened. His heart pounded like a warning drum. How deep does this betrayal go? And whom can he really trust? Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. His chest tightened. His heart pounded like a warning drum. How deep does this betrayal go? And whom can he really trust? Adrian. Clara's voice cut through his troubled thoughts. Her gaze softened, but there was something else behind those fierce eyes. Fear? Desire? Or was it simply the weight of the secret she carried? Before he could respond, there was a loud bang, like thunder, breaking the fragile moment. The office door exploded open, a rush of cold air filling the space. A figure rushed in, mask covering their face, gun drawn, and chaos erupted. Down, now! The intruder shouted, and before Adrian could process, Clara pushed him aside. She threw herself in front of him, shielding him. The sheer instinct in her move stunned him. "Clara!" he yelled, but the fear gripped his voice, twisting it into something desperate. The masked intruder swept the room, buckling under the metal of the gun. Silence hung heavy, the tension curling between them. Adrian's empire, once ruled by control, seeped into disarray. "Get on the floor," the intruder shouted again, taking a step forward. Clara stood firm, a protective barrier between Adrian and the threat. "Why are you doing this?" Adrian's mind raced. Was this about the dam? Clara's ties to his rival? It didn't make sense. "I know what you've done," the intruder spat, rage dripping from their words. "You think you can ruin lives and get away with it?" Adrian felt his skin prickle. Were the people from the community behind this? Had Clara set him up? "No!" Clara shouted back, her voice cutting through chaos. "Let him go! You don't understand." A cacophony of sounds burst from outside. The roar of sirens, voices raised. Fear palpable in the air. The intruder stepped closer, aiming the gun at Adrian's chest. Not another move. In the chaos, Clara reached behind her. Adrian's breath caught. What was she doing? He felt the world around him spin. He didn't want her to try anything reckless. Not now. Not ever. "Stop!" Clara shouted, her heart racing. "You don't need to do this. Listen to me." Then, from the shadows of the office, an unexpected voice came. "Everyone, freeze." Out stepped a tall man in a suit, smooth and calculated. Adrian's mind whirled. It was Michael, his oldest confidant. But now there was a darkness around him that felt alien. "Michael?" Adrian stammered. His pulse quickened. Why was he here? What was happening? "You knew about this?" "Let's keep things simple," Michael said, his tone calm yet chilling. "You've been a thorn in my side for too long, Adrian." Adrian's world crashed. Betrayal, like sharp shards of glass, cut through his mind. Michael, his right-hand man, was the enemy? Clara's eyes widened, the realization stripping away her fierce bravado. "You!" Before she could finish, Michael gestured to the intruder. "Finish what you started." Adrenaline felt the air escape his lungs. His empire, the very roots of everything he built, were crumbling around him, and he was powerless against it. Everything he thought he knew, every bond he believed unbreakable, shattered in an instant. "Clara!" he shouted, but the name felt weak, lost in the turmoil. He wanted to reach for her, to understand why she had stepped in front of danger for him, even as the foundations of his life crumbled. But it was too late. The gun fired. A loud echo filled the room, drowning out everything. Time froze as he looked at Clara, her expression a mix of defiance and fear, and then felt only a void as everything spiraled into darkness. What had he done? Was this the end, or the beginning of a shockwave that would tear through everything he had ever stood for? In that moment, so many questions hung in the air. Who was really on his side? Who could he trust? Would he ever recover from this chaos? Adrian's scream was swallowed by the deafening sound of the gunshot. Time twisted, reeling like a badly tuned record. Clara's body jerked, a gasp escaping her lips before she collapsed to the floor. Adrian froze, his heart racing with disbelief as blood pooled around her, soaking the fine carpet beneath her. "No, Clara!" he cried, his voice cracking with raw panic. He rushed to her side, his knees hitting the hard floor with a thud. Had she really jumped in front of him? Why? Each heartbeat echoed a hammering rhythm of dread in his ears. He gripped her shoulders, shaking her gently. "Clara, please, stay with me!" But her eyes fluttered, glazed over, and the life slowly drained from her face. The intruder stood back, stunned, the weapon still drawn, but wavering. Confusion clouded their anger. "Get away from her!" they yelled, though their voice carried a tremor now. "You did this!" Adrian shouted, rage mingling with despair. "You shot her!" Michael, still standing by the door, raised a hand, stopping the other intruder. "Wait!" His voice cut through the chaos like a knife. "This isn't how it's supposed to end." Adrian shot him a look, a mixture of betrayal and hope. "What do you mean?" Before Michael could respond, Clara stirred, a gasp pulling sharply at her breath. Adrian, she croaked, reaching feebly for him. Don't let them! Don't let them! Shh! Don't talk, Adrian pleaded, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. Help is coming. Just hold on. But as her fingers brushed against his skin, he realized something. There was a strange glimmer in her eyes. The baby, she murmured, the words tearing at his heart. It's not yours. It's not what you think. The world spun, and for a moment, he didn't understand. What? His voice stumbled over the question. But before she could explain, her eyes rolled back. Clara fell limp, breath shallow, fading. Clara! Adrian's scream filled the room, raw and terrifying. He yanked at her shirt, checking for signs of life. Heart racing, he pressed his ear against her chest. Silence. Panic erupted inside him. The intruder glanced at Michael, uncertainty flickering through them as they lowered the gun slightly. What now? Michael's lips curled into a dark smile. Now, we take what's ours. Adrian's stomach dropped. What? You're working with them? Close enough, Adrian. The betrayal hung heavy in the air. You didn't think you could just destroy lives without repercussions? It's time someone put you in your place. Adrian felt the walls closing in, anger flooding his veins. You're a coward, Michael. But before he could act, the room erupted in chaos. The door burst open again, this time flooded with police officers shouting orders, guns drawn. Get down, hands where we can see them. Adrian's heart raced as he turned toward the noise. Confusion morphed into terror. He moved instinctively, dragging Clara's limp body, whispering for her to hold on. He looked back at Michael and the intruder. You set this up. I did what I had to do, Michael hissed, backing toward the window. This isn't over, Adrian. Before Adrian could react, Michael lunged for the window and smashed through the glass, falling into the unknown. The intruder hesitated, torn between betrayal and escape, looking at Adrian with wild eyes. In that moment, Adrian realized something deeper than fear. Clara's final words echoed in his ears, a truth hidden under layers of lies. But now, the room pulsed with new questions. What had she meant? Was the baby truly not his? As police finally surrounded them, Adrian opened his mouth to shout for help, but darkness closed in. Where did betrayal end and the truth begin? And in this storm of chaos, could he still uncover the reality of the lives he shattered? Adrian's scream echoed in the chaos, but it felt lost in the air, drowning beneath the sirens wailing outside. He pulled Clara's body closer, the warmth rapidly fading as fear clawed at his insides. Desperation surged. He pressed his hands on her wound, his heart racing. Would she be okay? The police barged in, guns raised, eyes scanning the room. Get on the floor, they shouted. Sirens blared outside, creating a cacophony, but Adrian could barely register it. His world had shrunk to just him and Clara. Clara, please, please! He felt a frantic pulse in his throat. Help is coming, just hold on a little longer. In that moment, the intruders stood frozen, the gun shaking in their hands. Clara's eyes fluttered open briefly, locking onto his. Adrian, she rasped, her voice a whisper. gasping for air. You have to. But before she could finish, her eyelids drooped, and life began slipping away. "Clara!" he cried out again, a primal scream that echoed through him. "Stay with me!" What chaos enveloped the room like smoke. The masked intruder's face twisted with confusion and hesitation. "I didn't mean for this to happen," they shouted, belief crumbling. "Get down," an officer shouted, pulling the trigger on the situation. They were in control, but their words felt empty against the rising tide of panic. In the corner of his eye, the dark silhouette of Michael lurked, lips twisted into a smile. "This isn't what you wanted, Adrian?" His voice dripped with venom. "Shut up!" Adrian snapped. "This is all your fault. I just made you see the real game. You think you could destroy me without consequences?" Clara only clarified whose side you're truly on. Adrian felt bile rise in his throat. Was Michael right? Had he been so blinded by ambition that he didn't see who was truly loyal? Then a sudden crash shattered the tension. The window behind them exploded inward, and amidst the flying shards of glass, a figure hurtled into the room. A third intruder, clad in black, eyes wild with intent. In one swift motion, they aimed a weapon, but a sharp crack pierced the air. The officer had reacted, firing their weapon. Time froze as the bullet struck the newcomer, body slumping against the wall. Adrian's heart raced, then paused. "Who are you?" he shouted, the question mixing with his rising dread. It wasn't over yet. His mind raced with possibilities. Suddenly, a faint whimper emerged from Clara. Adrian turned, heart pounding like a drum. She was still conscious, horror lighting her eyes. Don't let him find the truth." "What truth?" Adrian asked, shaking her gently. In that moment, the police moved in, pulling the other intruder down. But pain twisted through him. Clara's face drained of color. "It's not what you think. The baby." "Clara, stop." He gripped her hand tighter, hoping to anchor her back to him. But her breath quickened, and silence fell. An ominous weight, like a stone, dropped in water. A uniformed officer turned and said, "We need a medic." But the urgency thundered against Adrian's ears. And then, through the storm of adrenaline and terror, something strange happened. The remaining intruder, the one who had just fallen, began to stir. Adrian squinted, eyes widening. This was impossible. As the figure pulled off their mask, Adrian froze. The face looked familiar. No. His voice fell to a whisper. "Can't be." Recognition hit him like a sledgehammer. The face belonged to someone he thought was long gone, someone he had buried deep in the past. "Surprise, Adrian. You've missed so much." The intruder smirked, blood trickling down their chin. Adrian's stomach dropped. "You?" The room spun. A carousel of memories flooded back, secrets long buried resurfacing like a tsunami. "Your world is crumbling, just as it should." The voice was a chilling melody, full of vengeful glee. You never did learn what real danger looks like, did you? Adrian's heart raced. The truth stretched like shadows across the room, dark and tangled. What did this mean for Clara? For the baby? Had everything he believed been twisted into a lie? As darkness closed in, he knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. Adrian's mind was spinning at the sight of the unmasked intruder. You? He choked, disbelief clawing at his throat. The man grinned, a dark glint in his eyes that sent shivers racing down Adrian's spine. Surprise, big brother. It's been a long time. Adrian's heart dropped. His brother? The one he thought had died in that tragic accident? This isn't possible, he yelled, shaking his head as if to shake the image away. Oh, it's possible, the man replied, stepping forward slowly. You just ignored it. Dismissed me like everyone else in this universe. The chaos of sirens and shouting officers faded, replaced by a heavy silence that hung between them. Clara's hand was limp in his. What are you talking about? Adrian's voice quivered, a mix of anger and fear coursing through him. Think about it, Adrian, his brother said, his tone almost mocking. You've been so busy building your empire, you forgot about the people who wanted you down. You buried the truth, but I've been watching, listening. Police officers were rushing in, weapons drawn, but Adrian felt frozen, caught in the whirlwind of his brother's revelation. You didn't die? You faked it? Yes, and I've been building my own plans, waiting for the right moment to strike. It's poetic, isn't it? You destroy lives, and now I'm here to destroy yours. There was a twisted delight in his expression, dark satisfaction lingering in every word. No, Clara! Focus on Clara! Adrian's voice boomed, desperate. He turned back to her, feeling time slipping like sand through his fingers. Her breathing was shallow, each gasp heavier than the last. Stay with me. But it felt like a whisper in the storm. His brother took another step, eyes gleaming. You really thought you could control everything? Not when I'm pulling the strings behind this curtain. Adrian felt a mix of fury and dread. This is insane! You don't care who you hurt. Oh, I care. I care about tearing you down. He waved a hand toward Clara, who lay bleeding on the floor. Look at her. Look at what you've done. You don't even know the truth of the life you're bringing into this world. The air felt thick, suffocating. Clara's eyes flickered open, fear shadowing her features. Adrian, she breathed, barely able to muster the words. The baby, it's not yours. It belongs to... No! Adrian's breath caught, his heart pounding wildly. Clara, stop! Don't say that! But she was fading again, her voice getting weaker. Panic surged in him. He needed to know. He didn't want to believe it, didn't want to hear the truth. Suddenly, the masked intruder, previously stunned, sprang to action again. They lunged forward toward Adrian, gun raised. But a burst of gunfire erupted from the officers. The bullet struck low, a scream escaping the intruder's lips. Adrian felt a sudden rush of adrenaline, the moment stretching out like a rubber band ready to snap. Then, the floor shook beneath him as the intruder crumpled, collapsing against the wall. Blood splattered against the polished floor, and an eerie silence seized the room. "Get down!" an officer shouted, as chaos erupted again. Adrian dropped to the floor, clutching Clara, the weight of the moment crashing over him. As the sirens blared and the scene dissolved into confusion, Adrian caught a flash of something, papers scattered on the floor, Clara's folder. Documents that could unravel everything. Sweeping them up, he felt a rising sense of dread. What else had she hidden? What other secrets? The pieces of the puzzle were about to fall together, and as he glanced at Clara, the true meaning of her last words echoed in his mind. "Adrian," she murmured, fighting through the pain, "the truth will break you." And suddenly, he realized this wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a battle for his very soul. "No, you have to wake up. I won't let this end like this." But as the officers flooded the room, the truth loomed like a shadow, ready to erupt and tear apart everything he had ever known. Would he ever understand the devastating reality that had been hidden from him? As he looked at Clara, her eyes clouding over, he felt time slipping through his fingers once more, and he couldn't shake the chilling feeling that somehow everything was about to change, for worse. Adrian's heart raced. The police officers surrounded them, shouting orders, but all he could hear was the fading breath of the woman he loved. "Stay with me, Clara. Just a little longer," he whispered. The air felt electric, heavy with tension and unanswered questions. Suddenly, a voice cut through the chaos, low and deadly calm. "You think this is the end, brother?" Adrian's gaze snapped back to his brother, standing tall despite the gunfire echoing behind him. "This is just the beginning." Adrian's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "I've played this game too long to let it end here," his brother sneered, eyes glowing with a kind of madness. "You think you can just walk away from the mess you've made? You're in deeper than you realize, Adrian." The room held its breath. Clara gasped, struggling against the pain, catching Adrian's eye. "Adrian, the baby," she began, but then faltered, her voice trembling. It was a warning. Something about the way she looked at him sent a jolt through his heart. Suddenly, the masked intruder who had fallen began to stir, groaning as they struggled to push themselves up. "Get down!" an officer yelled, already moving in. But the intruder ripped off their mask, revealing a shockingly familiar face that made Adrian's stomach twist. "No way. Josh?" Adrian blurted out. Recognizing the childhood friend he thought had vanished years ago. What was he doing here? How had he survived? But before anyone could react, chaos erupted anew. Josh suddenly lunged forward, eyes wild, grabbing a gun from the floor and pointing it at Adrian. "You don't understand, Adrian. I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" Adrian stared in disbelief. "You shot Clara." "Yes, because you don't see the bigger picture," Josh shouted, desperation pouring from him. "This isn't just about the dam. There are forces at play here you can't even fathom." Clara's eyes blazed with pain and confusion. "What forces? The baby—" she tried, but succumbed to a coughing fit, blood trickling down her chin. "Clara, no!" Adrian felt his chest constrict, helplessness merging with anger. This couldn't be it. He couldn't lose her. Then from behind them, a scream pierced the air, raw and primal. One of the officers had moved too close to Josh, and before anyone could react, Josh fired. The shot rang out, echoes shattering the moment, and another officer crumpled to the ground, the world swirling in a chaotic rush. Adrian's mind raced. Someone was using Clara, manipulating everything from the start. He whirled to look at his brother, who stood with twisted delight. "You planned this. You forged alliances with criminals to destroy me." "Think of it as a family reunion," his brother said, a dark grin spreading across his face. "I'm not the only skeleton in our closet, Adrian. You have a family you never knew about." "What are you talking about?" Adrian felt the ground shake beneath him, as if the very fabric of his life was slipping away. Josh nodded, panting, overwhelmed. "They want to exploit your weaknesses. This was never just about money. This was about control. Even Clara, she's not who you think." "What?" Adrian felt a rush of disbelief. "You're lying." But Clara, with her last bit of strength, raised her hand. "Adrian, it's true. I'm part of the network to bring you down." Shock flooded him. Every word cut deeper than the last as he battled to absorb the revelation. Betrayal opened dark chasms beneath his feet. "What? Why?" Then everything exploded into chaos again. More officers flooded the room. Amidst the shouting, a voice calling for a medic. The weight of the secrets crashed upon him. The truth was unveiling itself, layer after layer of treachery. Adrian's empire, built on ambition, was crumbling. And then, just as everything spiraled out of control, a loud crash echoed as one of the officers burst through the door, eyes wide with fear. "Get out! Bomb! The building is rigged to blow!" The world erupted into a frenzy. Adrian's throat tightened in disbelief. Was this truly how it would end? With Clara fading in his arms and his brother poised to unleash hell? He felt one final question surge through his mind. Who could he trust in a world where everyone had turned against him? Adrian felt like the walls were closing in. Sirens wailed like a chorus of demons. Clara lay pale and fading in his arms, desperately reaching for some life. His brother stood there, the twisted smile barely masking his glee. The chaos around them churned like a storm, but he could only focus on Clara. This can't be how it ends. He shouted, panic stripping his voice. "Get down!" shouted an officer, grounding him in the chaos. Another explosion of sound rang out, mingling with the cries and gunshots. The air thickened with adrenaline, fear clanging in his ears. "Adrian, listen," his brother said, stepping forward, his voice dripping with malice. "Your empire is nothing but a house of cards. All I did was pull a few strings to watch it tumble. You really think you're safe? This is the reckoning." Yet, through it all, Clara whispered, "The baby." Her eyes searched his, as if she were reaching for answers. "Clara, just hold on." But before he could process her words, the masked intruder stirred again, firing back at the officers. Panic in their eyes. Bullets flew. Glass shattered. But Adrian stayed glued to Clara. "Things you thought were solid? They're not," his brother laughed. "Chaos swirling. You should have learned about deception. You're in the middle of a game you can't even comprehend." And then, just as the tension hit its peak, an unexpected sound broke free. A low rumble from beneath their feet. It vibrated through the floor, raw and powerful. "What is that?" Adrian's eyes widened. The room trembled, causing dust to fall like rain. Clara's eyes shot wide open, panic freezing her features. "Run!" Adrian yelled, but it was too late. The ground shook violently, cracks spiderwebbed across the floor. A low roar echoed as the building swayed. He shielded Clara, holding her tight. Then, without warning, a hidden door burst open at the back of the office, revealing a sleek, hidden escape route. Light poured in like a beacon. Figures rushed in, clad in uniforms that were a stark contrast to police garb. "Get to safety!" shouted a woman, her voice commanding and urgent. "Who are you?" Adrian breathed, a mix of fear and confusion gripping him. But before she could respond, another explosion thundered outside, sending shockwaves through the walls. Adrian's heart raced. He was watching the very foundation of his life crack and burn. "Trust us," she shouted again, reaching out to pull Clara from his arms. The urgency in her voice was mixed with something deeper. Was it familiarity? "Let her go!" Adrian screamed, clutching Clara tighter. The world was spinning, and he felt everything slipping away. "Adrian!" Clara forced out, her voice trembling between breaths. "The baby! It's not just a part of your life. It's about everyone. It's a key you can't comprehend." His mind raced, unraveling her words like a tangled thread. "What do you mean?" he yelled back, desperation surging. But then everything shifted. The hidden figures turned, revealing face after face. Familiar faces. Friends. Allies from his past he thought lost. Their eyes glinted with determination and something more. "Betrayal." "Enough games," shouted one, stepping forward. "You're not who you think you are, Adrian. You were chosen for a reason." Adrian froze. Chosen for what? The revelation hung heavy in the air, a puzzle piece that didn't fit, shattering his understanding of reality. "Chosen? What the hell are you talking about?" A sudden stillness enveloped the room, like the eye of a storm. It felt surreal. Everything falling apart, and yet connecting in ways he couldn't fathom. "You'll find out soon enough," the woman said, her eyes locking on his with fierce intensity. Then, just as the tremors subsided, alarms blared louder than before, signaling an evacuation. Not just of a building, but of everything he believed. And in that moment, facing the fragments of his shattered empire and the weight of unspoken truths, Adrian knew one thing for certain. The game had just begun, and he was at the center of a storm far beyond anything he had ever imagined. What were they using him for? The questions piled, heavy and suffocating. But deep down, he sensed that understanding was just within reach. If only he could survive this moment. And as the ground shook again, Adrian couldn't help but wonder, who was truly pulling the strings? And what role did he really play in this intricate web? Adrian's heart slammed against his ribcage. Clara's whispered words echoed in the chaos, a nail in his coffin of confusion. The baby, it's not just a part of your life. The room began to spin, shadows of the past merging with the nightmare of the present. The tension felt like a thick fog wrapping around him, suffocating him with each heartbeat. He wasn't sure what was real anymore. His brother's presence loomed like a specter, reminding him of the betrayal that had cut deeper than any knife. "Adrian!" a voice shouted, snapping him back. It was the officer, urging the crowd to evacuate. The urgency was overwhelming, but all he could think about was Clara. "We have to get her out!" A violent tremor shook the room again, and this time, debris rained from the ceiling. Adrian shielded Clara with his body, panic surging. The hidden figures in the doorway moved closer, their faces etched with concern. They were not police, not friends. They were something entirely different. "Adrian, we don't have much time," one of them urged, gripping his arm. "This building is connected to something bigger. You need to come with us." "No, I'm not leaving, Clara." His voice cracked, deep desperation filling every syllable. "Please." The woman's eyes widened with fear. "They'll destroy everything." "Destroy what? What are you talking about?" Adrian shouted, uncertainty gnawing at him. But before they could answer, another huge boom rattled the room. The lights flickered, and a large section of the ceiling began to collapse, a massive concrete beam breaking loose. Time felt like molasses as he dove for Clara, instinct kicking in. He pulled her close, shielding her from the debris. In that blink of eternity, everything went still. The chaos froze, and the world shrank to only the two of them. Then, with a terrifying crack, the beam fell, hitting the ground with a thunderous crash. Adrian felt the explosion of pain as the floor shook beneath him. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the worst. But something unexpected happened. Through the dust and debris, a blinding light pierced the air. It was as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. Then it happened. The ground beneath them gave way. The floor opened up like a trapdoor, swallowing him and Clara into a chasm of darkness. They fell, plummeting into an abyss of swirling shadows, the howls of chaos fading above them. Adrian's heart raced, but as they landed, surprisingly gently, in a hidden underground chamber lit by a faint glow, he instinctively reached for Clara. "Are you okay?" Clara stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Adrian, what just happened?" As he helped her sit up, something in the chamber caught his eye. A wall of monitors, flickering with live feeds. Faces he recognized from the news, people he had come to trust. And then his own face, flashing across the screens. "What is this?" he gasped, a chill creeping up his spine. I don't know, Clara whispered, but it feels important. Suddenly, the monitors blinked, switching to a clear image of a woman in a sharp suit, her expression icy. Adrian Carter, she announced, as if all the chaos above had never happened. You've finally arrived. We've been waiting for you. Everything about her felt menacing, a puppet master pulling strings hidden deep in the shadows. Who are you? Adrian demanded, a mix of anger and confusion surging within him. What's going on? The woman smiled, revealing an unsettling familiarity. I'm your mother, and I'm very disappointed in you. Adrian's breath caught in his throat. His mother? Alive? The words twisted reality as his mind reeled. Was this yet another elaborate manipulation? Or had he truly been living a lie all his life? Disappointed? He echoed, the weight of the revelation hitting him like a bat. But you died! I saw it! Oh, honey, she purred, her gaze unwavering. That was just the beginning. Questions whirled in his mind, with no answers in sight. What had been real? Who was pulling the strings? He turned to Clara, whose face mirrored his shock. As the pieces fell into place, Adrian realized the stakes had never been higher. The truth was far more dangerous than he ever imagined, and the game had just escalated. Get ready, his mother smiled. It's a long way from over. What else had he been kept blind to? And more importantly, could he trust anyone in this twisted tale, where family could turn into foe at a moment's notice? The darkness loomed around him, and questions flooded his thoughts. What next? Adrian's heart raced as his mother's words hung in the air, a chilling revelation striking him like a bolt of lightning. Alive? You faked your death? His mind whirled with confusion, disbelief crashing over him like a wave. She leaned closer, her smile cold yet hauntingly familiar. Yes, Adrian. I did what I had to do for our family. Family? The word felt foreign on his tongue. You've been lying to me my whole life. Life, or the life I saved you from? She stood tall, confidence radiating off her. I orchestrated your rise to power. You're my legacy, but you've made so many enemies along the way. Adrian clenched his fists, fiery anger bubbling beneath the surface. And what about Clara? Why drag her into this? Clara, still weak and trembling, caught Adrian's gaze. Her eyes were filled with desperation, searching for answers. Adrian, they're using you, using us for something bigger. Just then, a crack echoed throughout the underground chamber, causing the monitors to flicker violently. The woman's face shifted, tension creeping into her features. What was that? Adrian looked at his brother, who was now diverted by the rising chaos. The ground trembled beneath them again, another violent rumble, growing stronger. Panic began to swirl inside him. "We have to get out of here!" he shouted. But at that moment, the wall to their left erupted with a blinding flash, sending shards of concrete flying like deadly shrapnel. Adrian instinctively threw himself over Clara, shielding her with his body. When the dust settled, he heard a strange, humming noise, rising and swirling like a storm. It vibrated through his bones. Suddenly, a figure appeared through the debris, tall and cloaked, face obscured. "Enough!" the figure boomed, a voice dripping with authority. "Your little family reunion ends now." Adrian's breath hitched. This new presence radiated power, unsettling and magnetic. You're the one behind this?" His mother's voice trembled, a flicker of fear replacing her burlier confidence. "Yes," the figure replied, pulling back his hood, revealing a face that sent shockwaves through Adrian's mind. It was a face he thought he would never see again, a face he had mourned, a face that belonged to his father. "Dad?" Adrian gasped. "But you died in that explosion." "Not quite," he said with a smirk, eyes gleaming like polished steel. "I staged it, just like your mother. It was all part of the plan." Adrian staggered back, emotions swirling inside him. Betrayal roiled in his gut, merging with confusion and anger. Why? Why all this deceit?" "Because our family carries something far more valuable than you know," his father replied. "The power and control over a network that stretches across continents. You, Adrian, are the key to unlocking it." Clara's fingers entwined tightly around his. "Adrian, we have to get out. This isn't what we thought." The reality of the moment sank in. He was trapped in a web of secrets and lies built by the very people who claimed to care for him. But before he could respond, alarms erupted, a high-pitched whine screaming through the chamber. "What's happening?" Adrian shouted over the noise. "We're under attack," his father declared, irritation lining his features. "They found us, and they don't want to leave any survivors." Adrian felt her heart pound in sync with Clara's frightened glances. This was more than just a family reunion. It was a fight for survival. And the game had changed. The monitors behind them lit up again, revealing images of armed men storming through the building above, brute force evident in every corner. "Run!" The word felt like a command etched into his bones. They had to fight to escape this treacherous maze of relatives and dangers entwined. As Adrian grabbed Clara's hand, his father snarled, "You can't escape what we built. You're part of this, Adrian. Like it or not." The urgency intensified. Each pulse of the alarms coincided with his racing heart. They darted through the heavy door of the chamber, knowing that their only chance was to unspool the truth buried in a past filled with darkness. Yet, as they turned the corner, ready to confront whatever came next, a thought pierced through him like a knife. Was his family truly at his back, or were they the puppeteers he had unknowingly served all along? And beyond that, as the reality of the chaos unfolded before him, what unthinkable secret lay hidden, waiting to emerge and shatter everything? Adrian's heart raced as he and Clara charged through the underground hideaway, the reality of his family's betrayal sinking deeper with every hurried step. Alarms blared, and chaos echoed above, but the urgency in his pulse drowned out the noise. "Adrian," Clara called, her voice shaking. "We can't stay here. They'll find us." He turned to look at her, the weight of fear heavy in his chest. "I know, but we need to figure out." The monitors flickered, revealing hazy images of armed men storming the main building above. The face of the cloaked figure lingered, each flicker reminding Adrian of the threat they faced. "Look!" Clara shouted as she pointed to a corridor leading deeper into the maze. "We can go that way." With a nod, they dashed towards the corridor, adrenaline propelling them forward. The walls felt cold, and the sirens wailed like a pack of banshees behind them. "Your family. They're dangerous," Clara said breathlessly, gripping Adrian's hand tighter. "We need to end this, together." "I know," Adrian replied, the bitter taste of betrayal hardening his voice. "But how? They seem to be one step ahead of us." As they raced through the winding tunnels, shadows loomed around them, flickering with hints of what lay beyond. The pulse of betrayal thudded through him, mixing with anger. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything he built was crumbling beneath his feet. And then, just at the end of the corridor, they found it. A heavy steel door, locked tight. Adrian pounded on the surface in desperation. "Come on! We need to break through!" Clara's eyes darted around, her mind working swiftly. There has to be a key somewhere, or a way to override it. Before he could respond, a scream echoed through the passage, a shrill, piercing cry that sent chills down his spine. His heart dropped. "We're running out of time. We can't let them catch us." Just then, the door behind them began to shake. The hinges creaked. "They're coming!" Clara cried, panic rushing through her. "Do you hear that?" Adrian whispered, forcing himself to listen. A faint sound, a different kind of hum, almost mechanical. "Wait!" he shouted, spinning on his heel. "It's the other side. There has to be a way to unlock it from here." He rushed to the control panel, fingers flying over buttons and switches. As he worked, the sounds of chaos grew louder, the pounding steps of armed men echoing down the corridor. "Come on! Come on!" His breath hitched as lights flickered. And then, the panel emitted a low beep. The lock disengaged. "Yes!" Adrian shouted, adrenaline surging through him. He pushed the door open, just as the first shadows loomed behind them. "Go!" he shouted, and they bolted through the threshold, tumbling into the unknown. They landed in a vast chamber, filled with towering shelves of documents, files scattered about. Adrian's eyes widened. This is it. This is where they keep everything. "We can find the truth here," Clara exclaimed, her spirit igniting. But just then the men stormed into the room, guns drawn, their faces twisted in determination. "Stop right there!" one shouted. Adrian's chest tightened. He had only moments to act. "Clara, find something, anything!" He ducked behind a shelf for cover, adrenaline pumping. He heard Clara rifling through papers, her hands a blur. "I found something!" she yelled, holding up a file overflowing with documents. "Bring it!" Adrian shouted, shooting out from behind the shelf. He grabbed her hand, pulling her back as bullets ricocheted off the wall. They dashed deeper into the chamber. As they fled, Clara clutched the file tight against her chest. What if this has everything? Proof of their plans? Their connections? It has to. Adrian replied, feeling hope flicker even in the face of danger. This could end them, once and for all. They reached another door at the far end. With tentative breaths, Adrian pushed it open, revealing a staircase spiraling upwards. The sound of gunfire echoed in the distance, but he could feel something, a surge of hope. "Let's go," he urged, and they began their ascent, racing against the echoes of impending doom. Finally, as they reached the top, they found themselves in a bright hallway, illuminated by daylight streaming through the windows. Freedom was so close, but the fear lingered. "Adrian!" Clara gasped, pointing to a figure standing in the light. It was his mother, waiting with an unsettling calmness. "Adrian, you can't leave," she commanded, her tone chilling. He froze, his heart pounding. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you belong here, with us, within this legacy." "No!" Adrian shouted, the words pouring from him like a flood. "I don't want this!" Clara stepped forward, standing beside him with fierce defiance. "We'll expose everything!" His mother's expression darkened. "You're making a grave mistake, Adrian. You think you can turn your back on family?" Adrian swallowed hard. "I can, and I will." With Clara by his side, they had to confront the truth. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with the risk of betrayal and the weight of secrets. But they wouldn't let fear dictate their lives anymore. "Are you ready?" Clara asked, her gaze steady. "More than ever," Adrian replied, and together they stepped into a future shrouded in mystery, armed with the truth that could unravel it all. Now is the moment. You must subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the time to show your support. Click the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And if you want your friends to experience this epic adventure, share this video instantly with at least 5 people. Don't wait another second to share this. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with your actions.